All right, so I just finished one of the books that I brought with me on vacation. This is day two. Drove out here last night, or well, yesterday afternoon actually, and then just this morning I finished the first book that I brought with me already. So this is The Last Wolf and Herman by Laszlo Krasznahorkai. I think in my last video going through the books I was planning to bring on this trip, I think I said, because that's what it looks like on the cover, I said it was two novellas and two short stories. I was mistaken. What it actually is it's two novellas, but the second novella is made up of two closely related short stories that are kind of about the same character. One of them from his perspective, and then the other one from the perspective of some other people. Um, who are kind of related to his situation. So, yeah, I read this pretty quick. Um, it's I mean, like everything I've read from Laszlo Krasznahorkai so far, his style with the long sentences and the no paragraph breaks, you'd think that would be hard to read, but once you get used to it, it really just sucks you in and it propels you through the text. So I read this pretty quickly. I found it very absorbing. Um, yeah, it's I I I really admire his pacing and also just the way that he like puts you into this world of the characters because I feel like all of his books whether they take place in a small town that's like literally geographically isolated or even if they take place in a city, it always feels like his characters are isolated, even if they're in a more urban area, they're like just sort of culturally or like psychologically isolated. So that there's just these little insular communities that all of his books take place in that he puts you right into the middle of, and you get to understand the peculiar mindset of these groups of characters. There was a lot of that in this, as there has been in everything else I've read from him so far. So the two novellas, The Last Wolf and Herman. Um, The Last Wolf is presented first in this volume, but I think it was written later. Um, Somewhere on the back it says that this is a pair of novellas, one early and one late, and it doesn't specify which is which. I would have to go to like his Wikipedia page and look through the Hungarian language bibliography to check that. But stylistically, I feel like The Last Wolf is probably actually the later one, just because it's all one sentence, which I mean he's always done very long sentences, but the thing where he'll write a whole book that's only got one period, I feel like he started doing that in like the 2010s. So I think this is the later one. And then this stylistically feels more like Satan Tango or The Melancholy of Resistance, where it's like a sentence might last half a page and that's it. Um, but yeah, so the first one, The Last Wolf, it's narrated in the form of this story that our narrator is telling to a bartender. He's at a bar in Berlin that he frequents, like he spends the whole day there. He's an older guy. He works like part-time as a lecturer at a university. He used to be a writer, but he wasn't very successful as a writer. And he's telling this bartender about what he's been up to for the past few weeks because he just got back from a trip. And the trip was that he got invited out to Extremadura, which is a region of Spain along the border with Portugal. Um, and he was invited out there by some people who somehow must have gotten a hold of his old books from when he was trying to be a writer, and they liked them enough that they invited him out there to write a book about their region, Extremadura. And they hope that him writing this book is somehow going to be part of like a regional revival for them. And it's never really clear to the reader or to this narrator character why they picked him or what exactly they're hoping he's going to write. But he ends up getting interested in the story of the wolves of Extremadura, because there are currently no wolves there, but he hears various stories from different hunters in the region, who are claiming different times and different wolves that would have been the last wolf to be killed in Extremadura. Um, and so he visits with them. He hears these stories from different hunters, about different wolves that might have been the last wolf. And like each one is like he'll go and talk to somebody, and then he'll hear after that that, oh, actually somebody else claims to have killed a wolf later than that guy. So then they got to go talk to this next guy. Um, yeah. So I mean, like a lot of Krasznahorkai's work, it's very bleak, very sorrowful. There's this sense of things just slowly deteriorating. Um, but I feel like usually in his work it's like human civilization that's deteriorating, but in this novella, or both of these novellas actually, it's more like the natural world. Um, Sorry about that. There's something here that I gotta throw away later. Um, yeah, so that one is again, I think that's probably actually the later written of the two, if I had to guess. I don't think it specifies in here. Maybe on the copyright page. Or I could Google it, but I feel like I need to stop Googling things in the middle of recording a review. Um, yeah, I don't know, but okay, so it doesn't specify which is which, but oh wait, no, it does. Okay, yes, so I was correct. The Last Wolf came out originally in Hungarian in 2009. Herman came out in 1986, which I think that's very early. I think that might even be before Satan Tango. I would have to go check that. I feel like Satan Tango was like 87 or 88. So very early work, Herman. But yeah, so Herman is a pair of interrelated short stories presented as a novella, and they both deal with this game warden who he's like a master of creating traps, but he begins to feel sympathy for the predators that he's tasked with killing, because like he works on a game reserve that's supposed to be for hunters. He's supposed to be killing all the natural predators so that the prey are left just for the humans. But he begins to feel sympathy for these predators that he's killing, and then he one day just like drops off the face of the earth, like leaves his job, no contact, doesn't tell anybody where he's going, and then he starts like leaving traps around town for people. Um, and so the first short story is from his perspective about like why he comes to that decision, and then how it ends for him. And then this one, the second one, The Death of a Craft, is about a group of people. It seems like they're like police officers who work together, and one of them has a mother who lives in this village where Herman was, and the mother is dying, so they have to go visit her. Um, and they happen to visit during the time that Herman is going on his rampage, and so they're like hearing about it from the townspeople, being like, "Hey, you kind of picked a bad time to come here, just so you know this is going on." Um, I think the pairing of these two is interesting. Obviously, there's some obvious thematic parallels there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was very bleak, very sorrowful, very pessimistic about the relationship between humanity and nature. But I mean, as has always been the case for me with Krasznahorkai so far, everything he writes is so bleak, but he does it in a way that I just enjoy reading. Um, you know, the way that he builds his sentences, and I mean, Hungarian is grammatically very different from English, so I think a lot of the credit for that has to also go to the translators. These two novellas were translated by different translators, so I think The Last Wolf was translated by George Sirtesh, and Herman was translated by John Botke, who I don't think I'd read any of John Botke's translations yet. I think of the Krasznahorkai works I've read so far, I think two of them were translated by George Sirtesh, and one was translated by Audalie Molzet, um, who like she's kind of the youngest of his translators. She's got some stuff, some new stuff coming out soon, I think. Um, but yeah, I think this was the first time I read something translated by John Botke. But yeah, I mean, lots of credit to the translators as well, because I know Hungarian is like I think they have like is a very different structure, and I believe it's an agglutinative language, so a translator has to make a lot of decisions about a word in Hungarian that would be translated as like three or four words in English, and how are you going to order those? But yeah, I mean, the fact that all of his translators so far that I've read have done a good job um, makes me think that a lot of it is probably him too. And I mean, he's very highly regarded in every language that he's been translated into. So obviously, a lot of it comes from him, but also comes from the translators. But yeah, just beautiful sentences, very engrossing sentences, and as bleak as the subject matter is, I always enjoy reading it. So yeah, I got through this one quick. Um, I've got quite a bit of vacation left ahead of me. I think I'm going to start The Pastor by Hannah Erstavik, and then aside from that, I mostly brought a lot of nonfiction with me. I got to finish reading Kant's First Critique, and then I also brought um, Groundwork to the Metaphysics of Morals. If I finish the First Critique, then I'm going to go to that next. I didn't bring. I think I mentioned in the last video I was gonna try to finish Shikasta by Doris Lessing. I did not finish it, but I also did not bring it with me. I'm kind of really frustrated with that book right now. I am going to finish it still when I come back from this trip, and I'll make a review and talk more about that. But that's what I got coming up. Um, a lot more reading ahead of me over the next week and a half, so I'll be back soon.